Fun. Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special lunch and learn that was decided on pretty spontaneously as a result of the events, the latest events in Israel. And what I thought we'll do is I can just give a brief overview of the events, and then just then open it up to questions, because I'm sure people have a lot of questions, and we can start engaging in a conversation, and the details of other things can come up through that. I also invited two very special people from Israel. My sister Ayelet. The way you pronounce it is I don't say it, I yell it. This is how you remember it. And she'll give her impression from Yavne. Yavne was the Ashkelon, Ashdod, Yavne. It's all in the same kind of strip of land that was under the at least the rockets the targeted area. So she'll give her impression, and then of course our dear friend Cantor Rabbi Oded Peles from Jerusalem, and he experienced the few of these events in Jerusalem that day that Jerusalem was attacked, and from Petach Tikva, another place. So he'll give us a little bit of his impression. So before I start with the kind of the summary of events and my opinion about it, I want to read to you the Psalm of the day. Every day there was a Psalm designated, and for Monday, this is the Psalm. We didn't even plan this, but I'm going to read to you Psalm 48, a psalm of the sons of Korach. Great is the Lord and most worthy of praise in the city of our God, his holy mountain. Beautiful in its loftiness, the joy of the whole earth, like the heights of Zaphon, is Mount Zion. The city of the great king, God is in her citadels. He has shown himself to be her fortress. When the kings joined forces, when they advanced together, they saw her and were astounded. They fled in terror. Trembling seized them there, pain like that of a woman in labor. You destroyed them like ships of Tarshish, shattered by an east wind. As we have heard, so we have seen in the city of the Lord Almighty, in the city of our God. God makes her secure forever. Within your temple, O God, we meditate on your unfailing love. Like your name, O God, your praise reaches to the ends of the earth. Your right hand is filled with righteousness. Mount Zion rejoices. The villages of Judah are glad because of your judgments. Walk about Zion, go around her, count her towers, consider well her ramparts, view her citadels, that you may tell of them to the next generation. For this God is our God forever and ever. He will be our guide even to the end. How amazing and appropriate this psalm for the situation that we were about to talk about. This situation began pretty much on the 6th of May. And again, the Israelis here can correct anything that I may be in error. But it began on May 6th with the demonstration of in East Jerusalem, demonstrating against a upcoming decision of the Israeli Supreme Court to remove a few families from an eastern Jerusalem neighborhood called Sheikh Jarrah. Now, again, it could be that it's legal, and it could be that is, they followed the law, but there's a story in the Talmud that says that Jerusalem was destroyed not because they were, non-observant, but because they were too observant. They were kind of standing, it says, on Kutzo Shel Yod, the end of the letter Yud, which means letter Yud is the smallest, and people were arguing on the end of the edge of that letter. So it means that they were looking at the details, but missing a whole picture. So there were riots there, and we'll get to that idea. There were riots, and then it kind of coincided with other events that happened to be on that around the same time. The following day, the Jerusalem police went into Temple Mount to quiet down the riots there, and then of course, it created even further uproar. And then they also blocked the Jerusalem police blocked the Damascus Gate, which is on the west side of the wall, where it's still in East Jerusalem, and this is normally where the Muslims end their Ramadan feast. So they were upset that the police blocked that area. So all these things kind of came together. Hamas at this point, as in its role of, or assumed role as the protector of Al-Quds, Jerusalem, for the Muslim people, started sending rockets from Gaza. And some experts say that the main, or one of the main impetus for this act by Hamas sending rockets from Gaza was actually the cancellation of the election by Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank, exactly for the reason that he didn't want Hamas to gain political power in Judea and Samaria, just like it seized power in Gaza. And of course, that would make the situation in Israel unbearable and could actually start a whole real war, not just an operation. So, so all this came together to this really awful situation where there were riots of Arab Israelis, citizens of Israel, that up until that day were good neighbors, and there were many stories of good friendships and friendship and nice relationship, but and it compounded with the missiles from or rockets from Gaza. This situation really never occurred in Israel before. There were riots of Israeli Arabs, but it did not accompany itself with the rockets. But here in this situation, it all came together, and then of course Hezbollah joined the party from the north for a little bit. It knew its red lines, but really Israel for 11 days since the day of Jerusalem, the May 10th, when the Hamas started sending rockets, all the way to May 21st, Israel has been under massive attack. And just as it was recovering from Corona and coming out of the forced or sheltered. Now they had to go back into those shelters. So my opinion on this, and then I'll give it to my sister and Oded to talk a little bit about their experiences. Then we can open up to questions. My personal opinion is that, of course, if you think that any of these events, really started this hatred, or at least signs of hatred, of course, it doesn't make sense. This conflict has been going on in Israel, in the land of Israel, at least before even the state of Israel. It is about land, but it really is about religion too. The peace proposal that we had with Project Genesis a couple of years traveling to Israel, there were a couple of points that we emphasized. One is that when we talk about two-state solution, the full name or description in two-state solution is in Hebrew is Shte Medinot Leshnei Amim. It's two states for two nations. And we didn't look at it from the political perspective, because we knew that this is not the main determinant of what how the relationship are going to proceed. It really is about coming to a religious understanding too. So for Arabs who are really between a rock and a hard place, the citizens of Israel and those who are also in the West Bank, they're in a situation where they have to show loyalty to Israel because they're citizens, but really their identity is Palestinian. They identify with their people. So it's really two people. And what we were suggesting is that wherever the borders will eventually be determined. If you identify as an Israeli, even if you're a Muslim or Christian, it doesn't matter. But if you identify as Israeli, great, you can be an Israeli citizen. And if you identify as Palestinian, you're Palestinian, which means that you can't vote in Israel and so forth. The other side of it, the second part of it, was, as we called it, nobody moves. And nobody moves was exactly because of the idea that in the 21st century, after Jews and Arabs were displaced so many times, there's no room for something like this anymore. So it really is about making sure that even if you're Palestinian, and you decide to be a Palestinian citizen, nobody moves, meaning you will stay in your house, but you will live in the state of Israel. And same is true for Israelis that will remain in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria. They could become Palestinian citizens, but stay there. Okay, I see also Omer and Amit, my two nephews, and would love to hear you as well. So, okay, so this is the situation. That's why I think the Sheikh Jarrah removing of the families kind of missed the target on this. And I don't know how they couldn't see how it would translate into riots in the street. Now Israel is in a pickle, because if it's a Supreme Court decision, it means that if Israel does not follow through with this decision, then it compromises its legal system and so forth. And so this is basically the situation as I see it. Now, let's hear Ayelet. And she said that if she gets stuck in English, she'll speak in Hebrew and I'll translate. So are you muted? Yes, you have to unmute. Okay. Omer, you want to assist there? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Shomim, you're still muted somehow. We can't hear you. All right. What if we start with Oded and we'll get back to Ayelet. See if you can ask Omer to figure out this. Okay. Oded.
Yes,
So, can you tell us a little bit about that day when you we spoke that day? I called you because that was
right,
very
right,
you know
right. Well, I can say that for me, I suppose the situation or the war or what we experienced during that time had few elements to it. I was supposed to guide groups of Israeli youth on Jerusalem Day, which was the Monday. We were supposed to go to the Old City. Actually, they did ask me to take them to some Christian sites. Um, to be more particular, we were supposed to go to the Church of Holy Sepulchre. It was actually a gap year studying here in Israel, Israelis. And of course, the day before, they said that we cannot, they're not allowed to go to the Old City. So we rescheduled, and on Monday morning, that's before the escalations, we went to another neighborhood, Ein Karem neighborhood of Jerusalem, which has many churches and Christian sites. And we traveled we toured and we spoke about the place there, but it was already very strange that we cannot really on Jerusalem Day, travel the city. I would just say that the next day I was supposed to guide a group from Google Israel that were supposed to come, and we were not even supposed to go to the Old City. We were supposed to go to Mount Zion, which is outside the Old City, and talk about interfaith and how the three religions live in peace most of the time, most of the year here in Jerusalem. And that was unfortunately, of course, canceled by that stage, because that night, at 6 o'clock, I actually came back from the tour, and I was relaxing by the TV, and the sirens went off. And the truth is that my first reaction was, it threw me back to 1973 when I was 6 years old, 5.5. No, I was 6. And I was in Petach Tikva. My father was on Miluim in the army, on reserve. He was called to the army. So my mother was alone at home with 3 kids. I'm the oldest. And I remember very clearly the sirens of 73, and the shelter was three apartment building of 3 stories, and we had to run in the middle of the night to the bottom. And it's what I want to say here is that for me the amazing part that after almost 45 years, even more, I'm still scarred, I'm still, traumatized from 1973. And I'm thinking of all the kids, and I'm sure Ayelet can tell more about it, that live and need for 20 years and being rockets and shelled. And nowadays I have a niece with her husband and baby that live in Beersheba, which was shelled and full of rockets all the time. The whole family was in a real trauma, and they moved eventually to my brother, to Beit Shemesh, to her father. But the Shemesh was also shelled. So it was 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. in the afternoon, and I'm hearing the sirens, and I'm going a little crazy. And I said, no, there must be a mistake. That's a mistake. There are no sirens in Jerusalem. I mean, Jerusalem is protected because Muslims will never shell Jerusalem because of the holy sites. I mean, they can, the same like they can hit citizens, they can hit the holiest sites. And then 3 minutes later, we had those incredible bombs, and the whole flat here was shaken up. Interestingly enough, I had an international tennis player, number 500 in the world, who came for a tournament here in Jerusalem, a tennis, and he's from the Ukrainians, and he came back home after. I have an Airbnb at home, and he came. I mean, can you imagine? He is a tourist. He's a tennis player, and he went. Yeah, he was in such a shock and so scared, and I had to calm him down. And of course, we needed to open the shelter that the building has, and I had to give him instructions what to do. And it was pretty horrible. Then the next day, I actually went to join my father, my 83 years old Holocaust survivor father, who lives in Petach Tikva. And let alone the next nights, every night we needed to go. The reason I went is because on Wednesday that week, we had my mom's third yahrzeit in Petach Tikva. So we had some plans for the family, of course, to get together, to go to the cemetery. And then after the cemetery, to get together at home and do what people do, learn a little bit and talk about my mother and remember her. So every night I was with my father. The sirens went off at 1:30 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And the one night, I think it was Tuesday night, I don't remember anymore, we had few sirens, and the first one my father didn't hear. So I'm glad I went to be with him, and I woke him up, and we went to the sheltered area. And the last one, 10 to 2 a.m., missile hit, I would say in miles. It was maybe a mile from home, actually in an area where I have many, many friends in Petach Tikva. The whole block of flats was shaking. And well, thank God there were no real casualties in Petach Tikva. But it was pretty scary. And the next day, unfortunately, we couldn't really commemorate my mom's yahrzeit because Hamas has decided to tell us that even though we had some plans for the afternoon, they're about to rocket to shell us, and they gave the time. I think it was 6 or 6:30. So we canceled the family coming from all over the country because we didn't want people to travel. And I was thinking, we cannot even commemorate a yahrzeit of my mom because of Hamas in Gaza. I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, we changed the time. Only the people in Petach Tikva, 10 people ran to the cemetery. We said Tehillim and Kaddish, and we went back home, and we had a very little event. So that was the week. I also want to add just that, and then there will be, I'm sure, some questions. For me, as someone who was born here, the worst part is number one, what Rabbi Gadi mentioned before, is the lack of understanding of some people. And I'm not getting into politics, and I have my views and opinions. What happened in Jerusalem and in Sheikh Jarrah, I mean, I'm all for our sovereignty here and our rights to be here, and it's holy for us. But sometimes even our leaders need to have some sense. And in the middle of Ramadan, maybe we can be more sensitive. But on the other hand, I think that this shows what is the real reality in Israel. And the conflict is a real conflict. And for me, the most difficult part of the story was the internal issue. What happened in Akko, what happened in Jaffa, what happened in Lud. My cousin's school was burned down in Lod. I mean, they actually moved 2 months. They moved out of Lod to another place, but he called me and he said, you know, the Ori Yehuda's school was burned down and the synagogue was burned down. And I think that at least shows us, I'm not saying who's here to blame, because I think it's Israeli society and we have to deal with it. It just showed us that we have an issue, and we are we still got a long way to go before there will be real, like Rabbi Gadi said, friendship. I mean, there is a lot of friendship, and actually on Wednesday, I'm going up to the Galilee to meet local Arabs, Christians, and Muslims in Nazareth. And on Friday, I'm going to meet people in Iblin. There is a lot of friendship in this country, but there's also lots of tension and lots of issues that needs to be solved. And for me, I cannot do much about the missiles with Hamas and in Gaza. We have a government for that, and we have the Iron Dome, and hopefully we have a good army, and we have to come to a solution there as well. But the fact that here in Israel, all those riots were all over the country. I was driving one of the days, I was driving one day to a regular place I go in nature, and I took a detour because I wasn't sure if it's safe to drive there, and I've been driving there every week. So, we have to realize that we have a serious issue, and it's an invitation to deal with it. And the idea and the solution that Rabbi Gadi and all his colleagues and friends are putting through is definitely one of the solutions. And this is what we have to do. We have to understand that we have an issue, and it's an invitation to, we cannot be on a denial. We cannot close our eyes. There is an issue, and we need to deal with it. We have to confront it. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Oded. This was very passionate, and this is exactly what we wanted to hear, somebody from the ground. So thank you. Ayelet, I never call her Ayelet. Her name is Ayun, but for this occasion, Ayelet. So there were rockets that came right above their house, actually. My sister sent me pictures. And Amit here, Amit is this is how I looked when I was 12.
עכשיו שומעים?
כן.
Hello everybody. It's nice to meet you again. עמית, אתה רוצה לספר משהו? החוויות האישיות שלך?
How did it feel? איך זה הרגיש?
איך הרגשת? מה היה? תספר, תתקרב חזק.
היה אזעקות דווקא ברגעים הכי לא מתאימים.
רגע, הפסקה, הוא יתרגם.
Oh, he said that it happened in the most inconvenient times.
למשל?
קרה פעם אחת שהייתי במקלחת.
Oh, he was in the shower one time.
פעם אחת בשירותים.
Okay.
פעם אחת כשאני בכלל שיחקתי עם חברים שלי ודיברנו, וכאילו כל אחד במקום אחר בארץ.
Oh, wow. One time he was online with friends from all different places in Israel, and it caught him in the middle of that. איך הרגשת בזה שרק יצאנו מהקורונה, ופתאום נכנסנו למקלטים?
זה לא בדיוק שינה לי את ההרגשה בין הקורונה לבין זה, כי הייתה לי פחות או יותר את אותה הרגשה.
Wow. So I asked Amit how he felt that just coming out of the Corona time, that people had to be in lockdowns and at home, and then going into the shelters like this. And he said he didn't feel a lot of transition. Actually, it felt pretty much the same. I guess the virus is invisible. The rockets are visible, but other than that, he had the same kind of feeling. Wow.
אני אומרת שהדור הזה הוא דור של גאונים, כי הם דילגו על כיתה. לא למדו בקורונה, ואז גם לא במלחמה.
So my sister said that she thinks that all this generation of kids are gifted, because they all had to basically skip a class, a grade, So, you know, I think the experience that they're getting, you know, I don't know, it, any it's education institution can give that. The fact that the whole world experienced the whole thing with the corona, but now it's something that Israeli kids have. So, so what do you do at home now? Mata עושה בבית?
מה אתה עושה בבית? עכשיו חזרת מחוג,
אמ,
חזרנו לשגרה.
חזרנו לשגרה, עכשיו הייתי בחוג דווקא, בדיוק חזרתי ממנו.
Oh, so they went back to their routine, and he was just in an extracurricular activity that he just came back from, and that's
אני
great.
רוצה להגיד שבארץ המצב הוא מאוד שברירי, שהשגרה ואז מיד יציאה מהשגרה, ואנחנו מתורגלים לכניסה ויציאה מהשגרה וחזרה.
Wow. So Ayelet's saying that they're very used to coming in and out of their routine in
כן,
Israel.
וגם זה כבר לא, השגרה הקודמת שלנו היא כבר לא השגרה. השגרה הזאת היא השגרה החדשה.
Wow. Wow. What he just said was, do you know
Wow.
how we all expect to have a new normal? And we say, oh, after the coronavirus, we'll have the new normal. And Amit saying, well, this is our new normal now. It's very profound.
אני
Wow.
רוצה להגיד שהיו המון אזעקות באמצע הלילה, שילדים היו צריכים לישון, לקום.
You know, at least the coronavirus didn't wake them up in the middle of the night several times.
וכל אופנוע שעובר, אז אנחנו דרוכים.
Yeah, even when a motorcycle goes by, they're very tense.
גם
How do you,
שיחקתי עם החברים שלי, אני כמעט לא שיחקתי, כי כל אחד מהם גר במקום אחר, ואז כל פעם היה אזעקה במקום אחר. אז שיחקנו כולנו ביחד למשך 5 דקות, ואז אחד מאיתנו היה צריך ללכת בגלל אזעקה, ואז הוא חזר 5 דקות כולנו ביחד, ואז מישהו אחר, ואז ככה וככה וככה וככה.
Wow. So even when they were trying to meet online and play online, there were alarms and red, I guess the red alarm in different places in the country, and sometimes even in one city, they would have red alarm in different neighborhood. This is my nephew Amir. As you can see, he's in the Air Force, and he just came home. Wow, Amir, I don't know how much you can say, but how was it for you being in the Air Force, being very busy these days? Yeah, you can't say a lot, but whatever you can.
I haven't been home much.
Bye.
Bye, Amit.
Just felt like an intense time.
Were you home at all?
No.
No.
I've come home for a couple of nights, just for a few hours.
Wow.
That's all.
God bless. God bless. People protect our our land. Now I wanted to ask Amit, but I can ask maybe Amir too. How do you feel about the fact that, of course, it's justified that Israel defends itself, but do you in any way feel the plight of the Gazan people?
I think that the Israeli army and especially the Air Force is doing everything he can so no civilians will be harmed. And there's so many lies out there that people only see those lies. from where I stand, I can see and understand everything that's really going on. I do feel bad for the civilians that they're that getting harmed, because even if we're doing everything we can, there's still civilians that that will get harmed.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's a great point. That, yeah, I mean, Israel is trying to do everything possible. Of course, it's a terrible situation, and everybody wishes it didn't happen at all. But Israel is doing every possible thing to save lives and to it's called knock on the roof, and alarming people, even the terrorists. That
It's more than that.
It's more than that.
When the Air Force wants to destroy a building, they're waiting for several hours until they know that there's nobody in that building.
Wow.
And sometimes they're calling the people and calling the people around that live there, and a lot of the times they're canceling some attacks because they can harm civilians.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So I think maybe we'll thank you very much, really, for these.
אני רוצה להגיד עוד
testimonies.
משהו.
Mhm.
כן, אני רוצה להגיד שבחדשות כל הזמן יש את הרעיונות ושואלים מה הסיבה, למה זה קרה, מה קרה, ומנסים לנתח את זה על פי המצב באותו רגע, ובעצם מה ששואלים באמת זה מה הנסיבה, אף אחד לא באמת נכנס לעומק מה הסיבה, אלא מה הנסיבה.
Nesiba. So the word, there's a kind of almost a play on words in Hebrew that everybody's asking why, what happened, what's the reason, but the word for the real reason in Hebrew is siba. What is the origin of it? And then there's another word nesiba, which is similar, but it really only addresses the immediate reason, which means that, as I listed originally, there was removing the families from Sheikh Jarrah or the Damascus Gate and so forth. But these are only nesibot. They're only the local immediate reasons that things flared up. But really, the real reason, and at the bottom of all that, is much deeper, of course, and it's not going to be solved with just military operations. That's for sure.
כן, ואני רוצה גם להגיד שמה שקרה הפעם, הסבב הזה, היה עצוב במיוחד בגלל ההתקפה מכל הכיוונים. עכשיו אתה הזכרת, תגיד רגע ואני אמשיך.
She's saying that then this time particularly was sad because of all the directions that Israel was attacked, including the inside upheaval.
כן, עזה, לבנון, רגע.
And it's still going. Maybe we had שביתת...
There was a strike.
הפסקת
אש.
Oh, ceasefire. Right. There's a ceasefire now, but we don't
with
know.
With the Hamas, but I know
inside
2 hours ago, a soldier was stabbed in the back in Jerusalem. So it's still going.
כן.
Yeah.
עכשיו גם בגבול ירדן, אז הגיעו אוטובוסים מעיראק, גם להפגין על הגבול. זה פשוט מזכיר כל ההפגנות, ועוד משהו שהוא מאוד חשוב, כל האלימות וההפגנות מחוץ לארץ, באירופה ובאמריקה, שזה פשוט התפשט לכל העולם, לכל מקום, מהפנים אל החוץ הרחוק.
So this time it really had hit the shock waves around the world with all the demonstrations against Israel and so forth. So the people who live in Israel, you can imagine what pressure they're experiencing right now. I
וזה
mean,
מזכיר,
all directions in Israel and around the world. Yeah.
וזה מזכיר, כל השריפה של בתי הכנסת, וזה מזכיר תקופות מאוד חשוכות בהיסטוריה שלנו, שאנחנו רק למדנו עליהם בספרי ההיסטוריה, ואנחנו פשוט חווים.
So even growing up in Israel and yeah, I never experienced this burning of synagogues. So Yael is saying this reminds us of dark ages in our history, and something that we only learned about in the history books, but now actually in Lod and other.
והבעיה היא הרצון להבין והאמון, כמו בכל מערכת יחסים.
Yeah.
תגיד?
Yeah, so now the issue is, the challenge is how to repair the distrust that now was exposed between Jews and Arab citizens.
ולסיכום אני רוצה להגיד שהרגשות במבצע הזה היו מאוד מעורבים, כי מצד אחד באמת ההתקפה שהיא חסרת כל תקדים מהבחינה של החוויה שלי האישית, שלא ראיתי דבר כזה, ומצד שני כל מה שהתלווה לזה מבחינת עם ישראל שהיה מאוחד, וגם חלקים בציבור הערבי, שאומנם חלקים קטנים שהעזו, כי הם פוחדים, כל התמיכה ההדדית אחד בשני, והיינו שמחים שהתמיכה הזו גם תגיע מהעולם, מיהודי העולם והתפוצות.
Yeah. Wow.
שנשמע את הקול שלכם בצורה יותר ברורה, כי אנחנו פה, אבל פיזית, אבל אנחנו עם אחד ואנחנו צריכים תמיכה בפרט בימים קשים.
Wow. So Ayala is saying in conclusion that what they're experiencing in Israel, beyond all the challenges, is the silver lining was that they felt the unity among the Jewish Israelis and with the also Arab Israelis that had enough courage to join the Israelis and say, the Jews, and say, we like where we live, we support Israel, and so forth. And basically, what she said also, that because it's so tense, they would like to see also the support of the Jews in the diaspora, also supporting very clearly Israel and its plight. So, wow, this was a very good testimony, I think. And now let's open up, and we can, it can spill beyond noon a little bit. Okay, Carol, you'll have to unmute.
I said, thank you so much for speaking, and having grandchildren here the same age as your nephews, 2 ages. I grew up with, on America was all good and Israel was all good. So it was no problem to be supportive. But my kids are now in, public schools in New York. And it's a real issue. Like I don't even know what to say to them. How to have any sense of support, because the public relations are so terrible. So I don't even know what to say. And what do you say? I think it's a big issue for adults too, but certainly for teenagers or younger college students, this is a major issue. How, they feel like they don't have the background, where, in Israel was all wonderful and we were all wonderful. But so, yeah, I don't know how to handle that personally, but yeah. So,
yeah, definitely. I
mean,
you
can't compare it to the trauma, your nephew with the bombs going off all the time, but it's a different kind of a trauma, and it's pretty deep. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's people tend to minimize the trauma of Israelis because somehow Iron Dome, or somehow because we came up with technology, we should be somehow punished for it. But I think it's the public relation, and I really sometimes I'm really surprised that the Jewish people, that you can say a lot of things about the Jewish people, but we are definitely articulate with words. So I don't know why we're not finding a better way to promote our causes too. So it's a big question. But I would say one thing is, because a lot of times we're overwhelmed, and students in campuses or in schools, they feel overwhelmed because everybody, in terms of numbers, yes, of course, the Muslim world can bring a lot more people, but the example that I heard lately, we shouldn't be deterred by that, because think of the influence of one person that sneezed in China and caused the whole world to close up. So sometimes we have the power that we don't even know, and we need to just dare to be. It's not easy, and there's ways to do that, but to not be overwhelmed and despair that we can't do anything about it. Adrian?
One of the questions I was wondering, Ayala, good to see you again. Rabbi, good to see you too. I was just, first of all, very happy to hear when you said that some of the Arab Israelis were friendly with the Israelis now, the Jewish Israelis now. What is the level of street violence or civil violence that you see going on? Because I'm talking about your next door neighbors. Do you go out there looking as though you're feeling as though they're going to assassinate you, or you're going to assassinate them? What is the feeling right now in the tone of your neighborhood?
I think maybe Oded can start here, because Oded lives in a mixed city, of course, Jerusalem. Yavne is not a mixed city, so there really I don't know how many Arabs live in Yavne. There are Arabs living in Yavne, I'm sure a few, but no, not at all. Wow. Okay, so it's not a mixed city, so maybe that feeling of being aware of your immediate neighbor is maybe not that prevalent, but in Jerusalem, absolutely. So Oded, how do you feel about it?
Well, I just, first of all, I want to say that I have no doubt that vast majority of Israelis, Jews, Arabs, and Muslims, I'm not talking about Palestinians, I'm talking about the Israeli Arabs. They want to live in peace, and they live in peace, and they obey the law. And it's not a cliche, it is small numbers. I'm not talking about 200 people, it could be 20,000 people, which for this country is is a big number of people that don't obey the law, and they are extremists, and we have extremists on both sides. Unfortunately, some extreme people went into the parliament recently, and that's also, Rabbi Gadi, to the view of many people here in Israel, including the head of the police, who said that the escalation was as a result of what one of the member of Knesset did in the last few weeks, and that also put some more, added to the escalation. So I really need to say that I don't think no one here, most people are not going to attack or murder other people. Most Israelis are obeying citizens, and they understand that we are here for good, that's for sure. And our neighbors are here for good. This afternoon, I took my bike and I went to the next door neighborhood, which is Beit Safafa. And well, I have to say that I did see two police cops standing there by the path I was taking. But I took the bike ride path, and I wasn't the only one. And it's an Arab neighborhood, mainly Muslim. And it seemed very calm and very relaxed. And I think that this is the situation in most of the country. Unfortunately, a few days ago, two Armenian priests were walking peacefully from the Armenian Quarter to the Church of Holy Sepulchre, and five ultra-Orthodox young people that were probably bored out of the mind, instead of sitting in yeshiva and studying, or I don't know what was their problem, started hitting them. The good thing was that the whole old city is covered with cameras, and also in a minute or two, police people came and actually caught three of the guys. And last night there was a huge rally on Jaffa Gate in support of the Armenian community and the Armenian priests and so on and so forth. And I'm going to go this week to Arab villages, towns. Iblin is a town, and Netherest is a big town, and I'm going there on Wednesday. And I'm going there because this is my country that I love, and I'm the sovereign here, and I should live here in 100% freedom, unlike my father 80 years ago in the Netherlands, where we all know the end of that story. So I think that we have issues on both extremes. Many people talk in Israel about we should not compare, and there was no a parallel to how many Jews attacked Arabs and how many Arabs attacked Jews. I think it's not relevant. People shouldn't be attacking each other for whatever the reason is. We are here to live, they're here to live, and all we have to do is find ways to strengthen our the Jewish state and everybody that lives here, and find ways to live together for many, many more years to go. Because like Rabbi Gadi mentioned, we don't want to keep on fighting. We know where the fighting is coming and where it's leading, and we have to find ways, means to put an end to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Judy?
I think what we also need to talk about is the influence of worldwide media and social media on the impact of this conflict, because it's been, social media in particular has been hijacked, and the views are never balanced. Even when you read the New York Times, the first 2 or 3 paragraphs always include stories about what has happened in Gaza and the destruction. And then the addendum is, by the way, 4,000 rockets hit Israel and 12 people were killed. So the presentation, without any background information, the presentation is never balanced, and it's always skewed. And I think that has to do with what's also going on in this country at this time.
Yeah, so it's interesting when there are people. I wrote my shofar message, just finished it last night, and you saw the article that I sent to you by David Harris, the CEO of AJC, and he lists these 15 outrageous notions that world leaders and media personalities spread that are outrageous. And of course, one of them is that the Jews control the media, and therefore they control the mindset of everybody. If they control the media, then where are they? I wish they control the media maybe a little more to bring that a little bit of the balanced view. When we see here, PBS, I love PBS, and the other day I was watching Christiana Amanpour's program. She has a fill-in right now, and the whole, basically the whole show was about the plight of the Gazans, and then a minute about, you know, Israel. So this is the war that we definitely find ourselves in, and we need to realize the war of the future is the war that is lifted, you know, to different dimensions. So
May I'd just like to ask a
yeah,
question. We have, obviously, Israel has to go forward now. And what will be the format of going forward? And an ancillary question is, are you happy with Netanyahu's governance? Is it poised to find a compromise, or is he an extremist and is he infuriating? Is he exciting those extremists with his policies? As you know, force brings more force, and that will never end.
yeah. I
So
mean,
I just wondered how you go forward in this situation.
right. So I'm gonna just preface it with a couple of sentences, and then let maybe Ayelet and Oded maybe say something, or anybody here. You know, definitely can voice your opinion about this. So what I've realized, you know, growing up in Israel and thinking the solution is political, I changed my mind through the pilgrimages every year, and seeing the Arab people more, and being in East Jerusalem. So, you know, to put all the responsibility on Netanyahu is giving him too much credit. He definitely, every leader has an influence and is responsible for the mood, if not anything else. And that's very important. I'm not taking any, you know, I'm not taking it lightly, but to put everything on Netanyahu, that's the thing. You know, that's sometimes the misinformation that many people have in the world. This is not a new conflict. And when other prime ministers were governed, they had the same issues from Gaza, from the West Bank. So he definitely maybe is dealing with it differently, but and he has some responsibility for sure. But you know, it's not all Netanyahu. And I would just end with saying again, I'm reminding ourselves that we realize that you cannot solve this politically, not in this region of the world. This is a religious mindset. Even Jews that are not so observant, but their mindset, they came to live in the Jewish state because they wanted to be Jewish state and you know, Jewish. So that's really, I think, the bottom line, and hopefully we'll move to that mindset more than giving a lot of power to politics.
But Rabbi, if it isn't obviously there isn't a political solution. But what is the path to any solution? I mean, obviously people in various individuals and groups have found ways to accommodate, but there's something else that obviously
Right.
something else needs to be done, unless it keeps going on this way
Yeah.
for
So
whatever.
I can tell you that there's a midrash that said, you know, Israel was under 4 different exiles, or different you know, empires, from the Greek, the Roman, the Persians, and so forth. But the midrash said that with the Ishmaelites, it would be the hardest conflict. And it could be different reasons, and it was written, you know, more than 1,000 years ago, that somehow with the Muslims, it's not just land, it's not just neighboring, it's not all that. There's a deeper level, and that's why also Temple Mount is so sensitive because the Muslims built the shrine of the rock, the Dome of the Rock, right on top of where the two Jewish temple stood. In a sense, they almost put a hand on our religious aspirations, and I think many Israelis don't really care about it, but I think majority of Israelis, again, not having to be so religious and observant, they care about it. They care about Temple Mount. They know that 2,000 years, 3,000 years of history, really, that was the center. So we can't ignore that, and the solution will come through, I believe, participating, involving a lot more religious leaders. Yeah, Oded.
I just need to excuse myself in a few minutes. So I want, unless there's specific question for me,
would you like to comment on what Saul just commented?
Well, I think that the solution, is intertwined in so many ways. I don't think it's just religious. I think it's religious and political. I think that the real solution is by education. I think that we have to educate the young generation of all sides that we live in a different era, that there is a way, there must be a way to live together amongst us Jews, amongst us Israelis, Arabs, Jewish, Christians, and all together. I really believe that it is about education. Rabbi Gadi, I have to tell you, I think most Israelis by far have no idea what is Temple Mountain and how it is important for us. Most Israelis have very little knowledge of what is Yom Kippur and how Yom Kippur is important for us, let alone Temple Mount. Israelis, unfortunately, when it comes to their heritage and a tradition, they don't know enough, and that's a matter of education. And on the one side, and on the other side, some Israelis, Jewish Israelis, are still being educated that the other can be the Christian, the Muslim, the Arab, and even the secular. The other is still somebody we have to be suspicious with. We can't sit together with them in a coalition. Here there is a wonderful opportunity for the first time to form a coalition with almost 2 million Arabs in this country. Yes, and some of them are extremes. So here is an opportunity for most of our politicians, and for whatever reasons, and I'm not going to go into the politics, they are so hesitating. God forbid we will have a coalition with 2 million people out of 9 that live in this country. So I really believe that, there's not going to be a solution in the coming 10 years. I can tell you that. We have to work towards making sure that 50 years from now, there will be a solution. And I believe that it's mainly about educating. It's knowing where you came from, where are we today, and where we are heading from here.
Yeah. Wow. I agree with you that education is the core of it. Definitely. I'm not sure I agree with that most Israelis don't know exactly, about Temple Mount, but really
they know about it, but they don't really know what it means, the significance, the history, the religion, the complication. But whatever. It's one of the issues we have to deal with.
Yeah. Now,
in any case, I want to thank you very much.
You have 1 minute because Judy had a question for you. Judy, did you
have a
question for Oded or in general?
It's Pat.
Pat.
Okay.
Let's hear from Ayelet.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful to see you all, and I hope we meet
Thank
in good terms and good times and healthy times. Thank you.
Amen.
Be safe, be safe.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. So Liz, yeah, did you have a question? You have to
You're
unmute.
muted.
Yeah, your sister has been trying to speak.
Yes, yes.
I think we should hear from her.
Okay, absolutely. You muted, yes, now.
גדי,
כן,
אני עכשיו, כן?
כן.
אז יש לי כמה דברים ככה. בדרך כלל אני מדברת הרבה, אבל עכשיו אני מדברת קצר, צריך לדבר קצר כדי שתתרגם. אתה יכול להגיד. אני רוצה להתייחס לשאול.
לשאול, כן.
שאול, שהוא דיבר על נתניהו. אז אני רוצה להגיד שגם לפני נתניהו, זאת אומרת, לייחס הכל לנתניהו זה לעשות לעצמנו עבודה קלה, ובאמת לא לרדת לשורש העניין. יש שאוהבים אותו יותר, יש שאוהבים אותו פחות, אבל היו לפניו שניסו כל מיני דברים ויהיו גם אחריו. אז הוא לא באמת הבעיה, זה אחד. אתה יכול להגיד אם אתה רוצה.
שזה כבר אמרתי לו, אבל אני אגיד עוד פעם.
אז תגיד את זה, אוקיי. שניסו קודם?
No, Ayel is saying that, basically what I said to Saul a little earlier, that definitely, leaders have influence, but what Ayel is saying, putting it all on Netanyahu is making our job easier. It's like, just, all right, let's just blame Netanyahu. And then there were many prime ministers before him, and there will be others after. That will try.
עכשיו, בעצם רציתי לחבר את שני הדברים, גם את נתניהו וגם את מה שאתה דיברת על nobody move, שמדברים על נתניהו שהוא לא עושה אולי מספיק, וגם לרעיון הכללי שלך של nobody move, והחיבור שלי הוא בעצם שלפעמים החוסר עשייה היא עשייה מרובה.
Wow. Yeah. So I think
מה עכשיו, מה לעשות, לפעמים פשוט צריך לא לעשות, וזאת גם...
So I think maybe with this, I don't know how much time people have, and I think we should maybe go to a kind of closing and maybe figure out if you want to continue it Thursday. But basically what Ayel is saying, that a lot of times Netanyahu is blamed also for not doing enough, or not doing things in the same speed that people want to see things happen. But what she's saying is sometimes not doing, and she's connecting it to my concept of nobody moves in the peace process, is that sometimes not doing something is doing a lot, is just to hold on, is something to do. So when are anxious to solve issues and go with it, sometimes we need to let also the reality take its own shape. That's basically, I think.
הדבר האחרון שרציתי להגיד זה כששאלתם אם יש לנו תושבים ערבים ביבנה, אז אין לנו, אבל אלי בעלי עובד עם ערבים באופן צמוד, עם הבדואים בדרום, וחשוב מאוד כי כל התקופה הזאת של הלחימה הם דיברו בטלפון עם המנהלים והזה, אבל היום למשל הוא גם ביטל נסיעה בגלל התפרעויות ובגלל, זאת אומרת הדברים עוד לא נרגעו, אבל בסופו של דבר אני אהיה אופטימית ואני אגיד שאנחנו פשוט חייבים לשתף פעולה, כי החיים חזקים יותר מהכל.
Wow. And I think that's a great message to end on. Ayelet is saying that even though there are no Arab residents in Yavne, but I started laughing because I thought she was going to say, but most residents in Yavne are Arab Jews. They're Sephardi Jews. They came from Arab countries, Yemen, Morocco, and so forth. But what she actually said is Eli works, my brother-in-law works with the Bedouins and the Negev very closely. He produces some activities for them, and so forth, helped them with a lot of their municipal needs. So, and they were on the phone throughout those days. He had to cancel a meeting today because of some riots still. But she said the bottom line, we have to cooperate because we live together and life is stronger than anything. I think that's a good place to end. We'll figure out if we'll, in consultation with Judy and Sarah, afterwards, we'll see if they think it's worth continuing the discussion on Thursday. Otherwise, we'll resume. But thank you so much, everybody, for being here and participating, and Ayelet and Oded and everybody else. So